It's Dustin, the alcohol-free guru, coming at you from the center of America, Yukon, Oklahoma. If you want to learn to control alcohol and get free tips and coaching from me and other awesome coaches from around the world on how to live an incredible life while being alcohol-free, then be sure to start now by subscribing, liking, sharing, clicking the bell so you don't miss a thing, and join in on live Zoom group coaching calls at wearetheafr.org. And there's a link in the comments below as well. To find out whether my program is right for you, please check the description below. Please ask any questions you have in the comments so I can answer them on a future episode. As always, I and we are with you. You will never walk alone. So growing up in the Midwest in the 1980s, the decade of Hulk Hogan, Rambo, the Muscles, and Ronald Reagan, that's what I thought being a man was all about. Popular culture, particular Western movies, taught me to associate alcohol with manhood, even while I saw it turning my father into a domestic abuser. From a young age, I was inundated with red-blooded country ideology. The Midwestern credo of American manhood says a guy like me should be able to take down a double shot of bourbon without flinching. You should love the burn, and as soon as you swallow it down, order another round. This culture taught me that you have to drink to be a man. Not only drink, but knock back whiskey like it's your God-given right. Well, this same God-given right also cost me and my family plenty. 2 generations before I was even a glimmer in my parents' eyes, my great-grandfather struck it rich during the Oklahoma land rush, securing through some pluck and some luck some of the best property in the country. He was an original Sooner, or state lore, a local legend, who seemed to have secured for him and his family a fortune that would trickle down to his great-grandchildren, namely me and my siblings. That was the plan anyway. My great-grandfather drank it all away, every last parcel of the land and every penny in his pocket. He never recovered financially or emotionally, and his tragic story was constantly whispered in our family as a cautionary tale on the dangers of alcohol. But that didn't stop a lot of us from drinking. My grandfather, his son, was infamous for his whiskey bingers, which often lasted 2 weeks. To come down from his binge, he would settle in with a 12-pack of beer just to re-enter civilized society and stay in the same house as his family. So what's that Bruce Springsteen line about a father wishing that his kids' mistakes would be their own? If I can't remember it, I don't imagine my grandfather, who never heard of the boss, was too concerned about passing on his wrongdoings to his son. Throughout my childhood, I witnessed my father drinking beer too, in his words, just to, quote, unwind after a long day. 1 beer after work quickly became 3 or 4, and he would then turn to a bottle of vodka. Ironically, he didn't drink much until he was around 25 years old, not too long before he settled down with my mother and started his own family. Rather than a lifelong project, his addiction was a quick descent. Let's just say my father was a very complicated man, a character who would light up a room or destroy it, depending on his mood, or how much liquor was in him. He had a great sense of humor, a keen intellect, and devilish good looks. He was a college professor and basketball coach, an intellectual and athletic powerhouse. He knew it too, and he wanted everyone else to know it. While other parents were fine with picking their kids up from school and the local pool in wood-bodied station wagons and chased family sedans, my father, in full peacock mode, preferred to pull up conspicuously in his brown Trans Am, a golden eagle emblazoned across the hood, wearing sunglasses and a brown felt cowboy hat, plumed with pheasant feathers. Sometimes he asked my mother to drop him off a couple of miles from the house so he could jog home, showing off his toned legs, which were exposed thanks to his then very much in style Sansa belt shorts. The kind of high school and baseball football coaches made popular long before Irish actor Paul Mescal made 5-inch inseam shorts popular again. My father thought he was Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit, and the ladies ate it up. My brother Darren once taught acting classes for seniors at a senior center in Oklahoma City. One of his students, who was well into her 70s, approached him after class. "Are you perhaps related to Fred Dunbar?" she asked. Darren told her he was his son. "Oh Lord, I could have been your stepmother. He taught me back when I was in college, and all the girls crazy for him." She looked off dreamily, reminiscing about her salad days. I remember he used to wear black underwear with white pants. Darren told me that story more than a year ago, and I am still not fully uncringed. These are the things we can laugh at, but take that same Burt Reynolds wannabe and put some vodka in him, and believe me, there is nothing to laugh at. Once my father let the spirit out of that bottle, that spirit sure seemed to take over. And I remember sitting in the car in the driveway with my 3 older siblings. I was probably about 5 years old. I remember watching my dad turn into a complete alcohol-induced monster. He was yelling and dragged my mom out of the house by her hair. She was screaming, begging him to stop. After he threw my mom into the driver's seat, he looked through the car and through the window at me and my siblings, his 4 children sitting in the back seat. I could see in his eyes that he was no longer there. Alcohol had not taken the edge off. It had taken him over completely. Another time, after their divorce, my mom was out. She was going out on a date, and her date was actually sitting on the couch watching TV and enjoying a cold glass of iced tea. Suddenly, out of nowhere, my father came pounding through the front door, full of rage, with his cowboy booted leg. He kicked the living room table, sending the man's iced tea all the way up to the ceiling. Unbeknownst to us, he had already keyed the entire side of the man's car. My dad was yelling at the man, threatening him, but my mom's date remained perfectly calm. He just sat there and stared at the television, content to ignore the huge, raging man in front of him, who was desperate and desperately in need of a reason to throw the first punch. My sister had gone to the neighbors and had them call the police. My brother Darren was trying his best to hide in the garage when my dad ran out of the house through the garage to escape the cops. Darren watched him go. Then he yelled to the cop, hot in pursuit, "He's going to the back gate." My dad yelled back, "My own son." He was disgusted with Darren for betraying him. "Now just sit with that for a minute," Darren told me once. "Do you know how big of a drunk jerk you have to be to get upset and disgusted with your 10-year-old child whose house you've just busted into, whose mother and guest you've assaulted, and whose living room table you've kicked to the ceiling? Now how big of an addict you have to be to not apologize the next day or ever, and to continue to remind that child how he told the cops on you and how ashamed you were of him?" The damage that alcohol does to the individual drinker is horrible. The damage that alcohol does to the people around them who have never taken a drink will affect them in a million indescribable ways for years to come. And yet, despite swearing I would never go anywhere near alcohol before I was tall enough to ride the bumper cars at the county fair, I still drank, thinking I would not end up like all the other men in my family, who also probably thought they could handle their 100% addictive alcohol. Like them, I drank initially to fit in, and later to prove my own worth as a man. Remember to like, ask questions, subscribe, and click the bell, and visit We Are the AFR so you stay involved. The God in me recognizes, honors, and loves the God in you.